Your attention will be presented to the practical actions of the forces and means of the Kamchatka territorial systems of the Russian Emergencies Ministry to eliminate the consequences of earthquakes at economic and infrastructure facilities. At a point with coordinates of 52 degrees north latitude and 153 degrees east longitude, an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.9 points occurred. In the Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky city district and settlements of the Yelizovsky municipal district, the intense earthquake was up to 9 points. In the event of a devastating earthquake, the senior operational duty officer of the Crisis Management Center of the main directorate of the Ministry of Imerkom of Russia in the Kamchatka region organizes notification of the management bodies of the Kamchatka territorial subsystem of the emergency response, the population of forces and means of constant readiness. In the future, he/she collects and summarizes information about the situation in the territory of the region. Notification of the population is carried out by means of electric sirens S40, a set of technical means for alerts P166, an information and telecommunication complex for notification and communication, which is part of the regional automated system of centralized notification of the population of the Kamchatka region. You are observing the actions of the calculations of the Rescue Alert and Communication Service and the Rescue Service of Public Order Protection of the Kamchatka region to alert the population through loudspeaker installations. Attention everyone! Attention everyone! Citizens, stay calm. Stay calm. Crews of unmanned aircraft systems are arriving in the emergency area from the Unmanned Aviation Unit of the Main Directorate of the Russian Emergencies Ministry for the Kamchatka region and the Kamchatka Rescue Center of the Imerkom of Russia. To perform aerial recognition tasks, unmanned aerial systems Phantom 4 and Inspire 1 are used. An assessment of the situation is made for making management decisions on the introduction of forces and means to the areas of emergency rescue operations, the scale of destruction and possible routes for the introduction of forces are established. The forces and means of the Department of Internal Affairs of the Kamchatka region arrive at the site of emergency and rescue operations. Measures are being taken to maintain public order in the area of work on evacuation routes, as well as to ensure the protection of material and cultural values and the movement of unauthorized persons to a safe zone. In the area of an emergency, the crew of the rescue platoon of Radiation, Chemical and Biological Protection of the Air Mobile Group of the Kamchatka Rescue Center for the Imerkom of Russia arrives in an aviation chemical reconnaissance vehicle. The crew is intended to organize and collect radiation and chemical exploration, monitor and control the object's territory. Aviation and chemical reconnaissance of the area is carried out, the boundaries of infection are marked, the work of the radiochemical observation post is organized. In the area of liquidation of the consequences of a man-made accident associated with the depressurization of a production tank with ammonia at a chemically dangerous facility, the fire brigades of the Kamchatka Rescue Center of the Ministry of Emergency Situations of Russia arrives in an AC-55 vehicle. The terrain is being explored, the parameters of the accident are being clarified, the volume of a container is half a ton, the infection zone is about 100 square meters, trunk hose lines are laid from the tank and truck, and manual RSC trunks are installed for irrigation and deposition for ammonia vapors using fan probes. The gas and smoke protection service in the protective units KIH-4T install an external sealing device, Pneumoplast, on the production tank at the site of damage. As a result of the earthquake, fire broke out at economic facilities due to damage to technological equipment. Fire brigades and rescue units of the Territorial Fire and Rescue Garrison arrive in the emergency area at training point number 1 to extinguish fire to a 2-floor industrial building. The fire is being investigated. The place of occurrence and the area of the fire are revealed. The threat to people and possible ways and means of salvation are determined. In the administrative premises and on the roof, there are people cut off from the evacuation routes who are asking for help. Personnel perform actions to bring fire rescue equipment in readiness to perform tasks to rescue people and extinguish fires. A tanker tank with a ladder and a ladder used to evacuate people from the roof of the building. 2 links of the gas and smoke protection services are created. A link of the gas and smoke protection service with the water trunk TS-50 is sent inside the building. The injured are transferred to emergency medical specialists and specialists of the medical and biological service of the main directorate of the Imerkom of Russia in the Kamchatka region. To extinguish the fire with foam on the 2nd floor in the production room, a combined fire extinguisher extinguishing installation Kurgan 5 is being laid by a gas and smoke protection service link on a retractable 3-track ladder. To remove combustion products, a smoke pump is installed. Groups of the Kamchatka Rescue Center of the Emercom of Russia, the Search and Rescue Squad of the Main Directorate, and the Search and Rescue Squad of the Center for Civil Defense, Emergencies and Fire Safety in the Kamchatka region arrive in the emergency area at training point number 2 to conduct reconnaissance, search for the dead and injured in the debris. Search operations in the debris occur with the use of cynological brigades. During the work of cynological brigades, the average detection time of one victim on one territory of debris on a territory of 100 to 100 meters with a height of debris up to 5 meters is no more than 30 minutes. Rescuers of the Research and Rescue Squad of the Action Support Center in the Kamchatka region are searching for victims in the zones using life sensor device developed by Russian scientists. The principle of operation of the device is based on the technology of radiation and reception of low frequency, high frequency and monopulses, with processing of reflecting signals. This technology makes it possible to detect changes in signals associated with changes in the movement and breathing of search objects, as well as to assess the distance to objects. After finding the victims, the rescuers fence off the area of emergency and rescue operations. Using emergency rescue tools, they make a passage, free the victim from the collapsed structural elements of the building and extracts him from the debris. Brigades of emergency rescue vehicles of the Kamchatka Rescue Center of the Emercom of Russia and the Search and Rescue Squad of the Main Directorate search for victims and disassemble the rubble manually and with a mechanized tool. The victims are being unblocked, first aid is being provided, and the victims are being delivered to collection points for medical care and further evacuation to a medical institution of the region. Rescue workers use sets of hydraulic emergency rescue tools Medved and Sprut, consisting of the equipment of the rescue center. In order to carry out search operations with Mi-8 helicopters of the Kamchatka Aviation League of the Khabarovsk Aviation Center of the Emercom of Russia, a cynological crew is being dropped to the emergency site using dogs. The purpose of this delivery method is to start the search for victims as soon as possible, and it is advisable if there is no place for a helicopter landing in the emergency zone. To assist the victim who found himself on the roof of the building, a group of rescue workers from the Search and Rescue Squad of the Main Directorate of the Emercom of Russia in the Kamchatka territory is landing from the Mi-8 helicopter. Rescue workers provide first aid to the victim and prepare him for evacuation. Lifting the victim from the roof of the building to the helicopter is carried out using the SLG-300 onboard winch, accompanied by a rescue worker. This method of evacuation is used in the absence of safe escape routes and the threat of collapse of emergency buildings. Rescue workers of the Kamchatka region actively use this method of evacuation during the emergency evacuation of seriously ill or injured people from ships, as well as injured tourists from the slopes of volcanoes. At the training point number 3, an emergency rescue crew of the rescue company of the Kamchatka Rescue Center of the Emercom of Russia and the Search and Rescue Squad of the Action Support Center in the Kamchatka region operates. You watch as rescuers evacuate victims from the upper floors of a damaged building using climbing equipment. Transportation takes place on an inclined trolley. For this purpose, a rigid Akia stretcher is used, which allows to fix and transport the victim in a horizontal position. A rescue scarf is also used for the safe descent of the injured. Emergency medical brigades arrived in the emergency area. Medical aid is provided to people evacuated from the building on the spot. Then the victims are taken by ambulance crews to medical institutions, by specialized teams of the Kamchatka Center for Medicine and Disasters to a mobile medical hospital for medical care. In the area of emergency situations, at the training point number 4, work is underway to dismantle the debris, collapse of the structures that prevent the safe conduct and rescue and search operations by crane and bulldozer group of engineering and rescue platoon of the Kamchatka Rescue Center of the Emercom of Russia. The dismantling of debris takes place using heavy engineering equipment, crane, excavator and dump truck, consisting of the equipment of the rescue center. As a result of the earthquake, the technological equipment of the fuel and lubricants warehouse was damaged. There was a spill of petroleum products. Alarm squad licensed by the Emercom of Russia for the elimination of emergency spills of petroleum products arrives at the place of liquidation of an emergency spill of petroleum products at training point number 5. A group of sanitary and epidemiological intelligence or Rosproterepnadzor from the Center of Hygiene and Epidemiology of Kamchatka region arrives at the site of an emergency spill of petroleum products. The group's specialists carry out sanitary and epidemiological reconnaissance, taking samples of air, water and soil, measuring the radiation background, rapid analysis of atmospheric air, determining the zone of possible contamination of territories and the contingent of persons who have been adversely affected. Arriving at the site of an emergency spill, the senior alarm group organizes reconnaissance, assesses the situation, assesses tasks for personnel, localization of emergency oil spill, spraying sorbents on a contaminated soil area, collection of the contaminated soil later into temporary storage tanks for further disposal. As a result of the earthquake, engineering and technical communications were damaged. In the emergency area at training point number 6 for the elimination of an accident on communal cold water supply networks using special engineering equipment, the work of specialists of the emergency technical team of the regional state unitary enterprise Kamchatka Vodokanal, of the rescue service of the municipal technical and energy of the Kamchatka region is demonstrated. The tasks of the emergency technical team are to conduct the reconnaissance and identify accident sites, establish the extent of damage to the water supply network and eliminate a break in the water supply as soon as possible. You are observing the excavation work to open the ground to provide access to the damaged section of the pipe, installation and welding work to restore the integrity of the water supply line. As a result of the earthquake, the main gas pipeline was depressurized. The damaged section of the gas pipeline is automatically disconnected at the nearest crane nodes by means of linear telemechanics. In the emergency area, at the training point number 8, emergency recovery teams of the Kamchatka Linear Production Department of Gazprom Transgas Tomsk LLC rescue services of utilities and energy of the Kamchatka territory. With special engineering, road construction and lifting equipment are carrying out work to eliminate the accident of the main gas pipeline. After the completion of emergency recovery work, the gas pipeline is put into operation. Public transport arrives in the emergency area from the administration of the Yelizovsky municipal district in order to evacuate the affected population to temporary accommodation centers. The affected population left homeless and who does not have required medical assistance is sent to prefabricated evacuation centers for registration and transportation to temporary accommodation centers. As a result of a short circuit caused by power line breaks, a natural fire broke out on the adjacent border of the settlement and territories. To extinguish a forest fire, an air helicopter equipped with an VCU-5A spillway device is involved at training point number 11. This device allows you to extinguish riding fires, reduce the spontaneous spread of fire and ensure effective action of ground forces and MES to localize and eliminate a forest fire. The helicopter with a spillway device is operated by an observer pilot who, when the aircraft enters the hearth of a forest fire, gives the command to discharge water. In order to organize the protection of the settlement from the threat of the spread of a forest fire, a fire truck arrives at the place of the fire, a pumping and hose complex of a specialized fire and rescue unit of the main directorate of the Emercom of Russia in the Kamchatka region. The personnel installs a portable carriage barrel, lays a trunk line with a diameter of 150 mm. The use of this technique and equipment allows the delivery of fire extinguishing agents at a distance of up to 1.2 kilometers. To extinguish, localize and eliminate a forest fire, a group of Yelizovsky Forest Fire Station of the Regional Institution of the Protection of the Kamchatka Heights of the Rescue Service of Fire Protection of Forests of the Kamchatka region is involved. At the place of extinguishing, the fire extinguishing manager manages the fire extinguishing forces and means, organizes a forest fire survey, develops forest fire extinguishing tactics, ensures the safety of employees, establishes the boundaries of the territory where the forest fire extinguishing action is carried out, determines the procedure and features of these actions, and also decides on the rescue of people and property. Organizes a search and evacuation of persons affected by the fire, as well as interaction with the operational headquarters of the forestry. The elimination of a forest fire is the final stage of extinguishing forest fire after the completion of work on extinguishing and guarding provided conditions for the resumption of the fire are absent. As part of the demonstration exercise, your attention was presented to the actions of the forces and means of the Kamchatka territorial subsystems of the emergency response systems to eliminate the consequences of an earthquake at economic and infrastructure facilities. A practical check of the readiness of the forces and means of the functional and territorial subsystems of the emergency response system for emergency recovery and other urgent work was carried out. Thank you for your attention.